All right, guys, so here we are in our, we're almost at the end of the chapter, but here's the second where I want to describe the difference between actual versus estimated factory overhead. Now, if you guys can recall, in an earlier video or prior slides, we talked about factory overhead, and this was the journal entry that we recorded. Now we're gonna do a comparison of what this looks like in what happens if you overestimate or you underestimate your factory overhead. Now, before I do this, I need to explain that, remember, when you have a job, when you initially, so when you initially set up this job, right, you have this job number 71, and this is all in work in process, right? And we've already applied our direct materials, we've applied our direct labor, and now we're going to do factory overhead. The factory overhead that's applied to this job is the estimated, right? It's the estimated, ED, come on. It is the estimated factory overhead. Then once the job is done, or when at the end of the period, at the end of period, this is when we get the actual factory overhead, okay? So then there's gonna be a difference between actual versus estimate. And so that's what we're talking about right now. When we come up with a job and a product costing and a product pricing, and as it's accumulating costs as it goes through the process, this is all using the estimated or the predetermined rate. Right? So then when the dust settles, or at the end of the period, then we do a comparison between actual versus estimate. And now we're talking about what to do when that happens, okay? So hopefully that makes sense to you. So in the very beginning, a couple of slides before, this is this journal entry represented when the dust settled. This was actual, right? However, this is when we first put this job together, we estimated that, hey, for this particular job, we feel like the factory overhead will be $42.50. Now, let's compare these two different numbers. So what you see right now is our estimated amount was $42.50, but the actual came to $4,600. So did we overestimate? Come on, right? Did we overestimate or did we underestimate? Or under? You guys tell me. Did we over or underestimate? My pen is not working, but you get what I'm saying. So hopefully you said that we under, right? This was our estimate, and this was our actual. So we didn't estimate enough costs. So what we're saying is that $5 per hour, or that $5 per hour of predetermined overhead rate was not enough, right? Because what actually happened is we came out more. The actual factory overhead of materials, wages, utilities, and all of that was more than what we estimated by the difference between the two, right? So let's talk about what that means. Let's talk about this variance between actual and estimate. So when your actual is greater than your estimate, which in our case it is, right? Then that means you're under absorbed, meaning you did not apply enough factory overhead. So instead of saying your predetermined overhead was $5, maybe you should have said, I don't know, $6 instead, or $7. Let's just say $7. Maybe you should have said $7 per hour. Okay. So right now you're under absorbed. You didn't apply enough money to each job. You didn't allocate enough costs to each job. That's what we're saying, okay? Now, what happens if your estimate is greater than your actual? That means you are over absorbed, meaning you apply too much money to each job. So instead of a job being $5 an hour per hour, maybe you should have done, say, $4.25 per hour, right? So that matters because as you're pricing products, you don't want to price your products too much, right? So if you may be pricing yourself out of a job, especially if you're in a really competitive market. If you're pricing those particular jobs too high, then they may go to your competitor. If you're pricing those jobs too low, then therefore that could mean you're losing out on money or you're eating into your profit on a particular job. So that's why over absorbed and under absorbed is very important in how you allocating cost. Okay. All right. So it says during the year, the balances are carried forward to the next month. And at the end of the year, the balance are rolled into cost of goods sold. And so I explained why this is important. So with that, I'm going to end this video. And now we're going to coast through the rest of this and work on work in process.